Look at this. Skeletal defenders take 99% reduced damage. Surely no one would play this over Reapers, making corpses and reducing your cooldowns. Unless you're the strongest and most fun Bone Spirit build going around dropping up to 1 billion Bone Spirit damages. This build ain't messing around with the most fun gameplay loop, and we just managed to clear a tier 105 pit without having the perfect gear. There's still lots of room for improvement. The crazy part is how many ranks to Bone Spirit you can get. That's 5 non-greater affixed, so we could actually get 6. Then on the chest, you can get another 6. And guess what? On the gloves, well, you can get another 6. So we're alone looking at 18 plus ranks from 3 equipment pieces. Screw Golem Mastery plus 5 if Bone Spirit can just soar beyond belief. Now, how does this all work and why is your damage so incredible? And that's coming down to the Banished Lord's Talisman, which tells you that after using 275 essence, you're getting a guaranteed overpower, and you're going to make your Bone Spirit have 100% critical strike chance, which means that if you do have 275 essence, essentially every single Bone Spirit is a critical strike overpower multiplied up Bone Spirit. And the gameplay loop is so entertaining. You have your skeletal warriors be absolutely undying, 99% reduced damage. They just walk forward and tank everything for you, while you're running in circles around the mobs, pulling them together and essentially going Bone Spirit, Bone Spirit, Bone Spirit. They have a 2-second cooldown to allow you to restore the essence from 0 to 275 after the cast straight away. And you're essentially just nuking everything in existence. It feels like playing a Necromancer that has a gigantic spiritual shotgun that destroys everything. And the very good thing during boss fights is that you're not having to like stand there, spam revives whatsoever. Nah, you're essentially circling very relaxed around the boss, avoiding the echoes, not getting hit, and then Bone Spirit. Dodge, Bone Spirit. Dodge, Bone Spirit. Very good and very easy to use for everyone. First skills, then gear, and lastly, the most fun Paragon board I've ever created. First 2 points in Reap and Enhanced Reap just to get a skill bracket lower. We're not using it. Then you need to max out Unliving Energy for that 9 essence bonus. We need to raise our essence as high as possible. And since the Bone Spirit is a core skill now, it gets another 15% multiplier. And the 9% more essence cost doesn't matter. It's using up all your essence anyways. Plus then 3 ranks in Hood Flesh to make some corpses. Corpse making is important for Fortify, since your damage is also Fortify. 1 point into the Blood Mist with a Blood Mist corpse creation to make even more corpses for Fortify. And we added Fueled by Death, which we didn't play before, because we're actually going to be raising the skeletons to get the Flesh Eater node, to boost the Skeletal Priest as well. That doesn't really matter that much, but we're getting that 9% multiplier. Why not? It's free damage. Then we're boosting our damage to close enemies as we're hovering around our opponents often to have the lowest travel distance on Bone Spirit. So why not take some damage reduction and even more damage multiplier? With the bonus of amplified damage and Abhorrent Decrepify for the cooldown reduction, that one is not that important, but even the minimal seconds you're getting is definitely worth it. We need 2 ranks in Necrotic Carapace because that is our Fortify. That's how we fortify with this build. Very important. Then every single point into Bone Spirit plus Dreadful Bone Spirit. While you're leveling or while you don't have 100% critical strike chance, you're going to play Ghastly Bone Spirit for 10% more crit. But as soon as you have 100% critical strike chance hit, after Bone Spirit hits an enemy, you generate 30% of your maximum essence over the next 4 seconds is very important. More crit chance, the more essence you have. That's fantastic because you're going to have 200 plus essence on cast. Then you're going to reduce your cooldown as you cast to get your ultimate back really quick. Plus Compound Fracture to have your Bone Storm make your Bone Spirit essentially hit harder. And lastly, Evosion for more critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. On the bottom, we're rocking Inspiring Leader for that critical strike chance. To get that 100% crit, we're going to have the Bone Storm with the damage reduction and the bonus critical strike. And lastly, the funniest note, Ossified Essence, where your bone skills deal increased damage for each point of essence you have above 50 up in cast. And well, we have 275 essence optimally. So that's quite some essence above 50 up in every single cast for maximum damage. Gear is very tricky with the build, especially the offhand and the helmet. Let's begin with the centerpiece, and that is the Banished Lord's Talisman. After you spend 275 of your primary resource, your next core skill, Bone Spirit, will overpower. And we have that 100% critical strike, so it's an overpower crit with a 60% multiplier. What you want to do while you're tempering this is you want to hit resource generation. That's the number one. And technically you want to hit that 3 times. They already have it hit 2 times is fantastic. And this ties very well into with your rings. I'll get to that in a second. And you do need the 60% multiplier. Now the resource generation is so important because after every Bone Spirit cast, all your resource is gone. And that's what we have this tempering for. Casting a Macabre skill restores 27 primary resource. And if you restore 27 primary resource, well, that multiplies up by your resource generation that you're having. Works plenty well. The other tempering should not be bone critical strike damage. I've been trying this out because you're essentially multiplying your crit damage up by sacrificing the golem. But the better temper result again is bone spirit damage. And that's simply because it's just higher. And your bone spirit damage is multiplied by 4 for every point of essence you have. And that's where critical strike can't keep up with. Let's say you have 200 essence. That's 800% multiplier, which means the higher the base damage of the bone spirit is, the more we're going to be multiplying upwards. Ergo, I need new rings. You need critical strike chance here. Maximum life, greater FX would be preferred. And then intelligence, critical strike damage is an option. And the actual skill on this one is not adaptability. It's the Requiem aspect, where you get 7 maximum essence per active minion. And since we're having all these active skeletal warriors going on, we're boosting our essence quite nicely up for free. Fantastic. And the second ring is running Torment. Critical strikes with bone skills increase your essence regeneration by 160% for 4 seconds. Since we're always critical striking with Bone Spirit, we always get the bonus of essence regeneration. And we're going to have essence per second on every piece of gear, making us restore 60, 70, 80 essence per second. Needed. 100% needed. If you're looking at the temperings, we get the Macabre skill restores 27 essence again, needed. And right now we have bone critical strike chance. That's technically a dud, but practically it's pushing you closer to that 100% if you're still struggling. It is an option to take. The offense is extremely tricky. Right now we have the bonus of damage, critical strike chance, and cooldown reduction. We would rather have maximum life because maximum life plus fortify multiplies up with your bone spirit in the overpowers very nicely. You do 100% need the cooldown reduction, but the main thing you need is maximum resource. And here, greater affix would be preferred. Maximum resource can be plus 20 on the offhand, and you really want that. And then, Bone Spirit explosion size. Without the explosion size, it's sometimes a bit iffy on bigger packs to actually hit them all at the same time. That is mandatory. We're playing Grasping Veins here because the 50% multiplier does work on Bone Spirit, making it even more dangerous. Boom. Your weapon can be a sword, a scythe, whatever you feel like. Intelligence, maximum life, pretty good. Then critical strike damage option, or you could go for overpower because overpower multiplies more nicely up than critical strike damage. And then bone spirit damage and bone storm duration. Yes, you want bone storm duration that it's up as long as possible. And that's why you're also playing the conceited aspect because that's another 25% damage multiplier with the bone storm while you have barrier for maximum bone spirit booms. For boots, there's no discussion. Maximum life, essence, and bone spirit. Could get movement speed instead of maximum life, but you need the essence per second and you need the ranks in Bone Spirit. There's no argument broken here. These are probably the perfect boots for the build right now. And on your pants, you're playing the Blood Moon Breeches. And right now I need to reset this mask to work because I got +3 on curse skills. That's useless. You either want to get the damage reduction or you want to get the maximum life. The amplified damage you won't get up another rank pretty much. And this gives you a 70% bonus multiplier to your overpower damage, just like that if the enemies are cursed. Boom chakalaka. That's your Bone Spirit being an overpower crit, and then that's times 70% again, while you're anyways already getting the 800% multiplier. For the gloves, we're rocking core skills. +4 to core skills. Critical strike damage, critical strike chance, fantastic. Could alternative have overpower instead of critical strike damage. And then you want to have Bone Spirit and Corpse Tendril size. One skill in Corpse Tendril size is enough, kind of. Also forget to talk about the boot tempering. Mobility-wise, just looking for standard movement speed. And utility-wise, either for the second Corpse Tendril size to just reach that 100% that you can just pull everything together. Or you would go for a lucky hit to slow, just to have another instance on stagger versus bosses. Not the worst choice. Chest is also not up for discussion. Macabre skills and essence per second. I need right now the armor to essentially reach the armor cap. Then I did temper crowd control duration, which is a bummer. I was looking for barrier generation. The maximum life is good as well because more max life, more booms with a bone spirit. Simple as it is. And if you get your essence per second and macabre skills greater affixed, yeah, that's really what you want. Obviously, I did hit the essence per second twice here. I need to make sure to hit the macabre skills at least once, so it goes up to the +5. And lastly, the helmet. I mostly play Harlequin Crest because that's another 20% resource generation. That being said, you do want the essence per second on the helmet otherwise, and this is also maximum resource. That would mean +20 and also +20 on your offhand. These are the two pieces where you do need maximum resource. Currently rocking that total armor percentage, and it's another source of cooldown reduction. You notice the pieces are quite hardcore set. Then Hardened Bones for the next 25% damage reduction. For the chest, it is Bone Storm Barrier, that you're essentially getting that barrier up. And for the gloves, it's the Ossified Key passive that gives you another 40% critical strike damage multiplier on the bone skills if you have enough essence above 50 cast. And yeah, we have more than enough. Easy peasy. Book of the Dead, and we talked about it. Warriors are defenders, so they don't simply take any point of damage. And then for mages, you would probably say, hey, 15 more essence, right? Surely to reach the 275. The problem is that below me, behind me, you could be getting a 25% overpowered damage multiplier. And that one is too good to say no to, getting your damage into crazy values, because that 25% multiplier adds more damage than the 15 essence does. If you're now, though, 15 resource away from 275, and let's be fair, technically you only need 265. Why that? Because if you're casting your Bone Spirit with 265, you just cast a Decrepify afterwards. That's 10 resource, and you essentially have the 275 resource spent for the overpower crit. It's Bone Spirit Curse, Bone Spirit Curse, Bone Spirit Curse, Bone Spirit Curse to essentially get that rotation rolling. If you're close to this, take the 15 essence. Otherwise, you're going to go for the 25 bonus whammer. Your Golem has 2 sacrifices. Technically, we could be boosting our maximum life by 10%. That's more overpower, that's more fortify, that's more wham. But the better one is sacrificing the Iron Golem because that gives us a 30% critical strike damage multiplier, which essentially makes our crits that are guaranteed 100% just crit harder. Paragon board was crazy, trying to get overpower and most bone crit damage possible. We'll start with the exploit glyph for the vulnerable damage multiplier, and here we're going for maximum life, maximum life, maximum life. Try to pick up every maximum life node because more max life is more damage. And Dex is really easy to take in this board. Then we're going up into the bone board, and yes, it looks a bit wild, but bear with me. First, we got Corporal in here, and that is multiplicatively going to be boosting the resistance and also our bone skill damage, which is quite interesting. Plus, there's a huge life node here. We're going to ignore the whole middle part because, again, we're boosting kind of like the essence, the bone spirit damage. So we don't really need the middle part. We would have 6 points to kind of go in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4 if we want to. But mostly we want to get up here for the legendary bone graft node for the bonus essence as well. Then we're going into the right side, and that is the Blood Begets board. We're not interested in the bonus damage for picking up blood orbs. No. We're interested in the maximum life, which is quite easy to get here. And then we're getting overpower, overpower, overpower damage, and that gets amplified. Yes, another 150% on that to boost that even higher. Quite nice. Working our way downwards into the Send of Death board, and there is the Dominate glyph in with 40 willpower right now for a huge boost of overpower. Then after the bone board to the left side, and on the left side, that's the next overpower board for the 35% multiplicative damage with even more overpower damage and another maximum life node to be taken. Plus here, we're going to have currently the Essence glyph being by 25 and 25 up. Now we do have these 6 points roaming around, and that could just be another 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. And you get that to 39, which boosts your damage nicely. Now these 6 points can be otherwise used. You can choose. These are your free roaming points. We're going down into the Flesh Eater board last but not least, and here we're activating Debt Raiser. And the simple reason we're activating Debt Raiser is whenever you or your minions deal damage to an enemy, that enemy takes 1% increased damage from you or your minions up to 15%. That's a 15% damage multiplier just for your minions existing. Yes, the first effect doesn't do anything for you, but we get our resistance quite nicely up in this board, so we don't need it. Our damage to elites is also fine. So we're not having to consider that. And now to your alternative points. Instead of putting them into more crit damage, you could also just boost your life by 2%, 2%, another 2%, with even more 2% and 2% waiting for you. That's another 10% life maximum plus, just like that. Don't scoff at that. It's possible. Otherwise, you'll just take the 2 and the 2, and then you can boost your crit, maybe just by 1, right? Maybe just take that 1 dex, or instead of going double down here, you're just going to take this dex. That still leaves you 2 points to essentially get another maximum life and another maximum life, just to weasel out even more. Ladies and gents, could I convince you to play the Bone Spirit? Are you excited to give it a try? Otherwise, how about the absolute re-enhanced perfected golem build right now, clearing everything in your path? Or the Heartseeker Rogue, which is clearly the #1 of this season, speed farming the pit, currently working on sub 3 minutes. Crazy. Enjoy, and thank you for watching. Drop by the live stream if you're already here. Happening every single day. Thank you very much.